Well, hello there, you Scrub Lords. Today we're going to be discussing, in another episode of Scrub Chats, quite a few topics. In case you've been living under a rock, a lot of things have been going on the past couple of weeks, and I haven't made any videos on them for a couple of reasons. Mostly the fact that I was just a little bit lazy, and the second fact is that I didn't exactly have a lot of time. Now that I have a little bit of time to sit down and actually make these, or make this Scrub Chats video, I can finally address some of them. The first one I want to address is the fact that I was actually at the Chino Air Show last weekend. Now, the reason why you're not seeing any footage here is because I'm an idiot and I left my SD card that has all the footage on it over at my father's house. And so it is not currently with me at the time I am recording this video. However, I will find a way to get all that footage brought over to this PC one way or another. So don't worry about that. I will probably make a more in-depth video at a later date. The air show was quite fun. I didn't see anybody there, or nobody came out to talk to me. I don't know if it was because people were just too busy with other things or whatever, which is fine. I'm not Mighty Jingles big, so I kind of expected that going into it, but it was fun nonetheless. I had a great time. And so moving on quickly to the very first topic at hand, the Ties for the Lion Air Museum that I am going to be there this week. I want to get this out of the way for those of you who want to come down and meet me there, that way you guys know which days I'm going to be there and which days I'm going to not be there, or days I'm leaving potentially early. The first day is this coming Thursday, the 11th of May. I will be arriving there at approximately 9 to 10 a.m. at the latest, and I will be leaving the facility at about 2 p.m. The reason for this is that I actually have a part-time job, so I actually need to get to that job. Now, I had originally requested it off, but I realized that because of some financial reasons and some expenses I have coming up, I actually need to come in and I actually need to work as many hours as I can. So, unfortunately, I do actually need to go to work that day, regardless of having requested it off earlier on. So, I'm going to be leaving for work early that day around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So, if you want to come see me Thursday, count on me not being there past about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This is Pacific Standard Time, by the way. Friday, I will be arriving at the same time, 9 to 10 a.m. It just depends on when I wake up. And I will be there most, if not all day. I will probably leave at the very latest around 4 or 5 p.m. It depends on when the museum decides to close, since I will be simply just helping out with a weapons table, and I will be there in a full Waffen-SS uniform, so I will be pretty easily recognizable. I will be in this uniform all 3 days I'm going to be there. Saturday the 13th, I will actually not be attending the Lion Air Museum because, first of all, I have class that day, which I'm trying to get out of so we can do another YouTuber podcast in the afternoon. On top of that, it's my brother's birthday, so I gotta be there for that. Well, gotta hang out with my bro. He's turning 18, so it'll be fun. Sunday, I will be there again, so Thursday, Friday, I will be there. Saturday, I will not be, and Sunday is the same schedule as Friday. So I'll be arriving, again, 9 to 10 a.m., staying there for pretty much most of the day. So if you guys want to come and see me, the 2 days to do it best would probably be Friday and Sunday. So, hope to see at least some of you guys there. I know that I have a relatively small channel, and, well, not everybody lives in Southern California who watches my channel, so it'll be interesting to see how many people actually show up and say hi to me. Anyways, let's move on to the first of the, I guess, arguably four other topics I have listed here. I actually have some notes written down. Okay, so the very first one, the Tribal Class / Project 7U Destroyers announcement that came out a little while back. And what are my thoughts on them? Well, first of all, cool. Gaijin are taking things a step in the right direction. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, in saying that I have not been particularly excited for naval forces for quite some time, and I'm not saying I'm crazy excited for the destroyers, either. I've always been a little bit disappointed with the direction that Gaijin has initially gone. It's nice to see that they're moving in the right direction, at least in my opinion, and they have published an article, I believe a couple of weeks ago, detailing some of the changes that they're going to be making to naval forces. Like, they're planning on doing a complete overhaul. They're overhauling the controls, they're overhauling the weapon systems, they're overhauling potential additions to it. So they're all overhauling, like, depth charges, and they're adding in smoke screens, mines. So that'll be really, really interesting to see how that turns out, and I'm eager to test that. As for the destroyers themselves, I think this is a really, really good thing. Now, are the destroyers potentially a stepping stone into much larger capital ships? We don't know as of now. And frankly, I hope it does, but I'm not holding my breath on it. Again, as I said, I have not been what you would call excited for these naval vessels since I think since about the first 1 or 2 times I tried it. After that, it got pretty boring for me and pretty stale. I know people like the small boats, and I do believe that Gaijin, if they can get it working properly, and if they can make it exciting in some way, shape, or form, I don't know a solution to that, but Gaijin appears to, then they could have a real winning combination on their hands. As of now, we'll have to wait and see. Frankly, my thoughts on it are, this is a good step in the right direction. Why not go bigger and see if we can figure out some solutions to maybe even put naval forces in their own game mode. That would be a solution, in my personal opinion. But I'll probably have to make another video on that one, detailing my thoughts on that. Okay, so moving on to the next series, or the next topic, I should say. Italian tech tree. My thoughts. I know I've been very quiet about this for the past week or so. And again, partly because I was lazy, and second of all, because I just didn't have a lot of time. Excuse me. And the Italian aircraft tech tree, we've known since the beginning of the year that the Italian tech tree, or Italian aircraft tech tree, and the French tank tech tree are going to be coming this year. Now, I guessed a few weeks ago correctly that during the YouTuber podcast that I thought that the Italian aircraft tech tree was going to come first. And the reason I said that at the time was because the propeller heads, as I call the aircraft junkies, have not really had anything particularly new on this sort of scale since the addition of the Royal Fleet Air Arm a couple of years ago. And I think that was introduced right before British tanks, so like mid to late 2015. And so they've been waiting for quite a while for something big to come out in regards to aircraft. Now, I do realize that the aircraft tech trees are substantially more fleshed out than the tank ones. However, I still think that there's always room to add new stuff in. And the Italian aircraft tech tree is a great place to start. Now, you'll notice I'm not going to talk very much about the tank tech tree because, one, they haven't announced it, and two, there frankly isn't much there. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the Italians had, I think it was like the 3rd largest air force, or no, apparently they had like the largest air force in Europe, only behind the Russians or something like that, which is quite impressive. Despite having one of the largest air forces of the Axis powers, their tank development was pretty, I want to say, lackluster. Their tank destroyers and assault guns were quite good, but again, that's a discussion for if they ever announce that end of the tech tree. Anyways, going back to the aircraft, as many of you know, I am not an aircraft player. I haven't really played aircraft seriously for a very long time. And there's a reason for this. I got quite bored of aircraft. To be totally honest, I don't think that aircraft is the type of gameplay for me. At least not as much anymore. If I want to go play like a proper flight simulator, I'll go play like Isle to Sturmovik or something like that. And there's very little reason for me, outside of ground attack roles in tank battles, for me to play an aircraft. There just isn't. Unless the aircraft is something special, like the PV-2D Harpoon, like I'll take that thing out into a couple of aircraft battles just to hang back and chill. or something like the ME-262 Sturmvogel. Like, it's something that's kind of out of the ordinary. I'll occasionally play. And I think one of my friends was trying to get me to play Japanese bombers the other day. That was really, really bad. That person, you know who you are, and screw you for making me do that. But anyway. Yeah, Italian aircraft victory. Cool stuff for the propeller heads. Still waiting on my French tanks, though. And I'm not saying that to say that get the Italian aircraft victory coming in is a bad thing. I just want my French tanks already with their freaking autoloaders, so that's just me. Okay, so moving on here to one of the final announcements, not the final topic, but one of them. World War Mode. We've been waiting on this mode forever. I mean, I remember logging in. It was one of the first times I remember logging into War Thunder and seeing World War Mode in the game modes, like at the top left-hand menu. And I was like, oh, what's that? And I had wondered about it for a while. Eventually, I got the impression that it was some sort of competitor to the World of Tanks Clan Wars mode, and it kind of is. It's going to be squadrons only, as they've said in the article, and I'll be posting all the articles and dev blogs down in the description below, so that way you guys can go back and refresh your memory on them. Of course, World War Mode is sort of like the Gaijin's long-term quintessential project for what they wanted to do with War Thunder. And the idea is to have combined air, land, and sea battles with squadron versus squadron, and they're fighting over a global map, which is a pretty cool concept, I'm not going to lie. However, there's been a few hitches in the potential introduction to this mode, and I'll get into why it's not so big of an issue a little bit later. However, first I am going to do what's called problem making. I'm going to accentuate this problem. It's nowhere near as bad as I think it is, or as I'm making it out to be, but bear with me. The biggest thing that is holding back World War Mode from the state that they've announced it in is the fact that Gaijin insists on using their absolutely god-awful tournament mode in it. And what do I mean by that? Well, tournament mode in War Thunder standard is realistic battles with markers. And that is a huge problem for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a terrible idea. If Random Battles has proven anything, it's that markers are a bad thing when it comes to tanks. Aircraft, not so much. Realistic battles for planes runs off of a very, very similar system. They have RB with markers. It works out great for there. So that's fine. When you're in a much, much larger battle space, and you have quote-unquote unlimited altitude, I know that's not particularly true, but when you have a ridiculous amount of altitude that you can fly to, having markers and having great spotting distances is essential. That makes sense. In a tank environment, where the maps, while can be quite large, are much, much smaller in comparison to the aircraft maps, markers have proven to be more of a hindrance than they have been a benefit. And there are a few reasons for that. The main issue that pretty much everybody has seen from these tournament rules is that there is no reason to play anything other than heavy tanks. And I'm talking about ground forces here, not so much aircraft. That's a completely different issue. For ground forces, if you have a marker sitting over your head saying, "Here I am, shoot me," don't you want to be in the most heavily armored thing you can bring? That's why for squadron battles for so long, until it was moved up to tier 5, the T-32 was pretty much the only thing you played. Because the T-32, it had pretty decent frontal armor, it had a pretty much invincible gun manlet at the time, and it had a pretty decent gun. But because of the lack of diversity there, battles just devolved into T-32 on T-32. Nowadays, you've got a little bit more variety since the T-32 has been kicked out of Tier 4 as a result of that, and there's been a little bit more forced variety. Unfortunately, however, I'm pretty sure, I can't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure most of the really competitive Squadron Battles teams are going to be playing nothing but IS-6s. Which again is another problem. Most of the best Squadron Battles competitive vehicles are premiums. Meaning that those who have the most premium vehicles tend to be the most competitive. Which is a serious issue when it comes to creating a fair tournament. Ideally, what you want is the regular tech tree vehicles to be just as good or better than the premium vehicles. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and it hasn't been for some time now. The main issue, however, that needs to be addressed when it comes to World War mode, and they have said that they're going to go through a testing phase, is that the removal of markers is going to be quintessential for, one, to get people to play the darn mode, because if you have markers in it, there is no reason to have any diversity in your lineups, because, frankly, the only reason why light tanks exist, especially in RB, is because they can't be spotted as easily. If you've got a giant red neon sign over their heads that says, "Here I am," you're gonna die pretty much right away, because people are gonna be able to see you across the map, and contrary to popular belief, some people are pretty darn good at shooting at long range. So, if you're going to be bringing anything, you need to be bringing the heaviest duty equipment you possibly can. So, again, remove the RB markers, Gaijin, and I think you'll have a winning combination there. Something else that needs to be addressed is the profitability of World War mode. People are not going to play World War mode if there isn't any real benefit there. One of the ways that World of Tanks keeps its Clan Wars modes very, very well populated and active whenever they have a Clan Wars event, is that whenever teams win battles or something like that, they earn gold. Now, I'm not totally tuned into the way the system completely works. I'm sure that there's probably somebody who played World of Tanks Clan Wars back in the day and can let me know down in the comment section. However, I know that you can earn gold and you can earn rare vehicles. And if you do that, Gaijin, or do something similar, or allow the players to earn boatloads of extra income or cool bonuses or something like that, just by participating in World War mode, you're gonna have a winning combo there. A combination of removing the markers and then adding on top of that some real worthwhile benefits. That's going to make World War mode a very, very prominent game mode and a huge success, I think. Because if you don't make it profitable, nobody's going to play it. If you put RB markers in, there's no reason to play anything but heavy tanks. And if you don't potentially increase the team sizes or make it more accessible to non-squadron players, maybe just some lone wolves, then it's going to be very difficult for newer people coming into the game to break into this mode. So, I'm wondering what you guys are thinking about World War mode. I'm personally pretty excited for it. However, I did mention earlier, and I'll reiterate this again, before World War mode is finally implemented, they're going to go through a series of testing phases where we can determine whether or not we actually want some of these features or not. So I think it's important that, though we may not agree with its initial introduction, or in the way that they're initially introducing it, it's important that we let Gaijin know by testing this event and giving them feedback and saying, hey, this is a cool mode and all, however, these are some issues that need to be fixed. And one of those, in my personal opinion, has to be markers. If you remove markers, I will personally take great interest in World War mode. Even if you're offering free premium time, gold, rare vehicles, unless you remove those markers, I personally will probably not be playing it all that much. I'm saying that right now. However, again, it's our job as a community to test this event and give them feedback, so please do when the time comes. Okay, so moving on to the very last topic here before I wrap up. Okay, so the very last thing I want to talk about is the Victory Day event that has been going on up until this point, and the Katyusha Fiasco, as I'm calling it. So right before the weekend started, Gaijin kicked off a series of events celebrating Victory in Europe Day. And that's usually involving a series of sales, for all the allied powers, so Russia, US, and Great Britain, are all getting sales of their vehicles, and currently, as of the time I'm recording this, it's still going on now, however, for not very much longer. Anyways, so they also tend to run like PvE events, like today they were running, I think it was called the Hour of Victory or something like that. They also ran a tournament, or not a tournament, but they ran an event where you could earn the Katyusha rocket launcher, the famous truck with rockets on the back that showered the Hitlerites with all sorts of manners of sweet explosive goodness. So this event had some very, very good ideas behind it. Give the players the opportunity to play a vehicle that most of them may not have played before, the BM-824, which is a T-60 chassis with the Katyusha rocket launcher system mounted to the hull, instead of the traditional turret. Cool idea. However, there's a hitch. The BM-824 is easily one of the worst premium vehicles ever implemented into War Thunder, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, you have extremely limited traverse and elevation and depression angles. Second of all, you have a very limited amount of ammunition. And third of all, that ammunition is rockets, or these 82mm rockets, that are absolutely awful ballistically. On top of that, the penetration of the rockets is like 24-something millimeters. And you had to get an ace game in said vehicle when it often takes multiple rockets to, at the very least, to kill something. Now, granted, you can get one-shot kills with these rockets, but it's not easy to do. And you had to get an ace game for it, which doesn't normally seem like a big deal. However, you were given a rental in order to, you redeemed a code on the website, and you had to do and you were given a rental period. The problem is that the standard rental period, unless you are a YouTuber, is 1 hour. Now that's in arcade battles at full length, that's probably about 4 games. The problem is that if at any point, if you die before you've reached those 5 kills, unless you own the BM-824, which we'll get to later, and unless you take it out again in a backup vehicle, like if you have your only life in the BM-824 and you screw it up somehow, or you got 4 kills and you're just about to get the 5th kill and the match ends, you don't get it. And now, granted, you could reactivate this code 4 times, once per day. That gave you 4 potential days to do this event. Now, I was able to go out and achieve and get the BM-8 or the BM-13N, the Katyusha rocket launcher truck, on my very first try. Now, the reason I was able to do this was not because I got 5 kills, but it was because I owned the BM-824. And this felt kind of like a slap in the face to anybody who didn't own one, because if you did own one, do you know all you had to do to earn the BM-13N was put the thing in your lineup, drive it out once, you don't even have to get any kills with it, and win the match. That's all you had to do in the BM-824, and you got unlimited chances to do it since you're not under a time crunch. And there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth on the forums that day and weekend. Especially on Reddit. There was a lot of people posting very, very strong opinions about this event, and I don't blame them. I own the BM-824. It was given to me as part of a press package for reaching 10,000 subscribers. I got a bunch of other premiums with it. However, the BM-824 is one of the most useless pieces of shit I have ever come across. And asking somebody to get 5 kills on it, while doable, and it certainly was doable, otherwise nobody would be able to complete this event, is asking for people to literally slit their own throats in frustration. Now, I realize that some people, I know on Mike Goes Boom's Discord, a bunch of people got together in a simulator lobby and just farmed each other kills, so that way that everybody could get it, which was really, really cool of those guys. However, again, it creates another issue that, like, people shouldn't have to go to those lengths just to get a stupid truck. And on top of that, the truck that you do get, the BM813, is probably one of the most is even more worthless, in my personal opinion, than the BM824. What you're getting isn't even worth the effort. I haven't even driven my BM8 or my BM13N, my Katyusha rocket launcher, because, frankly, I took one look at it and it's not worth it. It's a full 1.0 battle rating higher. It's a truck. It's not even a tank. It's a truck with zero armor on it, other than a blast shield to cover the gunner's eyes. And on top of that, it literally has no gun depression. Like, the lowest depression angle of these of the rocket launching, I guess, racks on the back is +8 degrees. I'm not joking here when I say this thing actually has no depression. It is so damn happy to be part of the glorious Soviet Union that it literally cannot depress the gun, or depress its weapons. Now, granted, Gaijin did implement some suspension so you could high roll with that thing, but even still, it is probably the most useless piece of shit I have ever seen implemented into War Thunder. And the only reason why there's only two real reasons people would actually want that thing. The first reason is it's a collector's item. Cool. You got something kind of unique in your garage slot that kind of is a little bit out of place. And two, for War Thunder films. The only real practical thing that I ever actually see the BM13N actually being useful for is a War Thunder film, like what Squire does with it, or Squire used to do with his documentaries. So, yeah, in my personal opinion, the BM13N was the greatest gimmick that Gaijin, I think, has ever put together. I mean, the World War II Chronicles weren't even as bad as this, in my personal opinion. Now, granted, I didn't play as many of the World War II Chronicles events, but I did play some of them. And, frankly, I think this was, like, the vehicles you got in the World War II Chronicle events, while some of them were pretty fun, I think, personally, I thought that the first tier vehicle, the Matilda F96, was not really all that worth the effort. I know some people love that thing to death, and I actually had some gameplay running of it where a guy got 15 kills with it, but I'm personally not a big fan. Anyways, overall opinion on the BM13N, the most useless piece of shit that Gaijin has ever implemented into the game. But hey, Gaijin can do what they want. Anyways, so I hope you guys have enjoyed me rambling on for like the last half hour. And let me know what your opinions are down in the comment section on these particular announcements. What do you guys think of the destroyers? What do you think is coming next for War Thunder Naval Forces? What are your thoughts on the Italian tech tree? What do you guys think about World War Mode and some of the solutions that I put forward and some of my initial thoughts on it? And what do you guys think about the whole Victory Day event and the sales? Did you guys get anything cool? Did you guys pick anything up with the sales, take advantage of them? Especially with the premium time sales, like, I mean, like 50% off a year premium? That's a pretty damn good deal, honestly. Like, 7,000, it's still expensive as hell, and it's still way overpriced, but it's actually bearable. So, in any case, thank you guys for listening. This has been Many Miles Away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your vinyls in place, keep around in the tube, and I will see you guys on the next one.